going on, everybody? Thank you so much for coming back to another video. And in today's video, we're going back to a film from my childhood, and we're going to talk about Small Soldiers. So before we get too far into this video, obviously, as you can tell from the thumbnail and from the title, I am joined by two really great YouTube channels here in this video, TravTries and Interpreting the Stars. Two channels and two guys that I've really enjoyed getting to know through YouTube. They have a really interesting way of reviewing what they review. TravTries reviews foods on his channel for the most part. He does do movie stuff from time to time, but it's nice to pull him into my channel and make him talk about movies every here and there. And then Interpreting the Stars, Dave, he does a great job of really analyzing films. He does such a great job of breaking down the narrative of films as well as just articulating his thought. He does this fun word of the day that he does in every single video, which I always really enjoy. Always teaches me a new word. And on top of that, he does a really interesting and unique scoring system that he does at the end of each and every one of his videos. So I've really enjoyed watching his videos. He's really good at what he does. He's really passionate about it. The two of them are, and I'm really happy to have the two of them in this video. So yeah, we're gonna hear from them in a second. Now let's talk about Small Soldiers. So I'll go ahead and say right now, Small Soldiers is a film that I have a deep connection to when it comes to my childhood. This is a film that I watched so many times growing up. It's not a film that I watched every here and there or once or twice, or maybe I have some fond memories of it. It's a film that I genuinely loved growing up. I have so many memories of watching this film. I had toys of the characters in this film. I have so many memories of watching this with my mom, of watching this with my dad, showing it to various friends. And it's not only a film that stayed in my childhood in the past, it's a film that I watched throughout my teen years, and I've watched it multiple times now as an adult. So this is a film that was very easy to revisit, a film that I never get tired of, and a film that I'll go ahead and say right now I have genuine love for. There is that 90s cheese that's attached to it, and of course, if you grew up in the 90s or watched a lot of films for the 90s, you know, it was an interesting time. So a lot of the humor, a lot of the dialogue sometimes, maybe some of the wardrobe that people wore, yeah, definitely interesting. So there are some dated elements when it comes to that. But the basic premise of this film is that you have these two toy creators, these two guys who are coming to pitch a new toy idea. They each have their own idea. One of them is pitching these elites, these commandos, essentially these army troopers, these cool army toys that can walk and talk and punch through the box, and they're gonna be really strong, and they're gonna be really cool, and they're gonna be these little fun toys that kids can play with. And then the other guy is pitching this group of peaceful monsters, all these monsters that have a lore of this place called Gorgon that they want to live on, and this place that they love, this place that they want to be. They want to live in peace. They want to be in hiding. They're kind of cowardly. They're not really these monsters that you would kind of think they are when you see them. They're these peaceful creatures that kind of just want to live in peace. And I really enjoy that because you can easily have gone with the approach of making the human toys, the you know, the ones that are commandos, the ones that are soldiers. We easily could have made those guys the good guys and made the monsters the bad guys. But in this situation, they made the toys that are the monsters the peaceful ones, the ones that you're on their side, the ones that you really enjoy. And then the monsters are the toys that look like humans that are supposed to be just regular soldiers. So I really did enjoy that. There's definitely some commentary there as far as the real world. And during the production of these figures, one of the guys ends up buying military grade chips without knowing, or at least not knowing what they would do. And when they install them into these, you know, set up action figures who have all their lores and their setup of who they are installed into their mind, they come to life. And so they believe they truly are these elite soldiers that need to destroy the Gorgonites. And then you have the Gorgonites who are truly these peaceful monsters that just want to go to Gorgon. They want to be in hiding. And I really enjoy that. This is essentially like a darker version of like a Toy Story. It's a live action Toy Story with a darker twist. And I think this is a film that really does a great job of balancing that line of being a PG-13 film that is for people who are coming out of being, you know, young kids, but it's a film that can work for young kids and can also work for older people, work for parents. There's a lot of levity in the film. And there's a lot of things about this film that I think make it a really great, just wide audience family film, and that's something that I really enjoy about this film. And before we get too much further into my thoughts on this film, and we're going to start talking about my biggest positives of this film, let's hear what Interpreting the Stars has to say about this movie.
Hey, what's up guys? Dave from Interpreting the Stars here. So, this is what it's like to be on Anthony's channel, huh? Bigger on the inside. Anyways, Anthony invited me to talk about Small Soldiers, which sounded pretty awesome because I remember watching this as a kid once, maybe twice. And the weirdest thing about it is that it's both memorable and forgettable at the same time. It's memorable in its characters and its subject matter, but it's also forgettable story-wise. Truthfully, the only thing that I remembered about it was that it was basically a live-action Toy Story, but a lot darker, because you got all these toys with weapons and violence, they're attacking children, and toys themselves are dying, there's explosives. So it's not exactly for kids, but it also has the feeling of a family film because you got the main character who is a kid. So it's such an odd feeling. Looking back, I have all these fond memories of it because I even had a Gorgonite toy, I think, growing up. But I also have this deeply rooted fear of it at the same time because of how dark it sometimes gets. It's such a different film overall, but watching it decades later, I find that it's mostly just a fun time. And it actually mostly holds up in terms of visuals. It's a mixture between practical effects and CGI, and sometimes the CGI looks a bit goofy, but overall it works. I think the story's fine, but the reason I couldn't remember it thinking back is because it's pretty unspecific. There's a lot of different characters, and they're all doing something different. You got toy manufacturers, you got the kid, you got the Gorgonites, you got the Commando Elite, and nothing really glues anything together in terms of narrative. The toys are just attacking each other because they're programmed to do just that, so they don't really sense any kind of real value in their motives. So it's hard to really care about what they're doing. It's just fun to be fun, honestly. Anyways, I'm going to stop hogging Anthony's channel, and I'll leave you with this. From an unbiased perspective, it's an okay film that does exactly what it needs to do, so my unbiased score would have been 70%. But nostalgia tells me that this is a fun film that isn't trying to be anything more, so my bias score is actually 84%, averaging out to a total score of 77%, which is what I'll give it. Thanks again to Anthony for allowing me to hog his channel, and until next time, peace out!
Big thanks to Dave from Interpreting the Stars for being a part of this video and giving his thoughts. I really enjoyed hearing his take on this film. I was really interested to see what he would say. I kind of just hit him up and said, hey, this is the movie we're doing. Are you interested in it? And, you know, I wasn't sure if he was going to be, but I appreciate him taking the time to watch the movie as well as do a little review for it and join this video. So definitely go hit the link down below where you guys can find it in the description box. I'll have the link for both TravTries and Interpreting the Stars, and you guys can go down there and go check out their channels. They're super great. Again, Interpreting the Stars, I really enjoy the way he does his scoring at the end of his videos. The one that he did for this video is actually a little bit different than the way he would do things in his main videos. So definitely go check out his videos. He does these really great narrative breakdowns, and I have a lot of fun with those. So definitely follow the link down below and go give Dave some love. Now, my biggest positive when it comes to this film are the characters. I think the characters in this film are just so well done and so much fun to revisit each and every time. Like I mentioned, now you have these dolls with these military-grade chips inside of their head who have come to life, essentially. The monster characters have fallen in the hands of this kid named Alan, who at first kind of just thinks they're cool toys. He's trying to help his dad sell some cool toys in this small toy store that they have that is kind of just selling old, rundown, cheap toys that nobody's really interested in anymore. So he ends up getting his hands on some of these cooler toys to try to help his dad sell them, but he ends up having to keep them hidden. And then he ends up finding out that they're alive, and that's kind of where their adventure starts. It isn't too much further into that they start encountering the soldiers who are there to kill the Gorgonites, to come and get them, as well as kill the humans who are protecting the Gorgonites. And I really enjoy the chemistry between Alan, the main kid, and the Gorgonites, especially the main Gorgonite, Archer. Easily one of my favorite characters growing up as a kid. I used to quote that character all the time. He was the character that I just really enjoyed. I had a toy of him growing up. I really always enjoyed Archer. He just kind of brought my eyes to the screen every single time. And all the other monsters called the Gorgonites, yeah, I really enjoyed them. I thought they were a lot of fun. I love their designs. They're all unique. They all have a different style. They all have a different personality. And some of them, you know, don't really have a lot of screen time. Some of them are just kind of there to be the funny one-liner characters. But by the end of the film, I find myself to be really invested with all of the Gorgonites specifically. When it comes to the Commando Elite, the soldiers, you know, the idea is that they're the bad guys, and there's kind of so many of them that a lot of them look the same, and it's not really meant to be something that where you're attaching to those specific characters. When it comes to the Gorgonites, though you know there's a bunch of these characters and these toys that were made, they only focus on one of each of them. Whereas in the Commandos, there's a bunch of the same ones that come out every here and there. So the idea is like you just have this surplus of these soldiers coming after the Gorgonites while you focus on this small group of each of the individual Gorgonites, which I think is really cool and probably the best way they could have told this story. This film stars people like Kirsten Dunst, Gregory Smith, Denis Leary, as well as the late, great Phil Hartman, which, you know, God rest his soul, easily one of the best comedians of that time. And it's always really sad to think about the fact that Phil Hartman is not here giving us great content and great comedy. I feel like he could have continued giving us some of the funniest performances, and it's just always so sad to think that he's not in this world anymore. But yeah, I love him in this film, and I really enjoy everybody in this film. Nobody gives a bad performance. There's way more people in this film. Tommy Lee Jones is in this film. There are so many performers in this film that you will recognize, or at least think, hey, I know who that is. I don't know their name, but I know who that is. So like I said, like, you'll recognize them. And I really enjoy the cast of this film. I think that they do a great job of kind of, you know, teetering that line of being kind of cheesy when it comes to the performance, knowing what kind of movie they're in, while also being able to dip their toes in some realism and some, you know, the darker element of this story. One other thing that really works for me when it comes to this film is the majority of the time that you see the characters, as far as the toys, a lot of times they are animatronics. There are actual moving animatronics that the actors are interacting with. It feels tangible. It feels like it's all real. You feel like the chemistry between the characters feels real. There are some moments where some of the performances feel a little bit cheesier than they should be in certain moments, but again, I feel like this film has a perfect balance of knowing what kind of movie it is. It is this really ridiculous concept, so it does have this cheese to it, but it also, you know, dips its toes in some darker elements and some realism. You know, obviously not too dark. It's 1998 and it's a PG-13 film, so it's not some really dark version of Toy Story, but there are some really creepy scenes like that Barbie scene in the film. If you guys have seen the film, it's rather weird.
It's alive! It's alive!
Hi there. Cannon Fodder Gwendy reporting for duty, sir.
Carry on, soldier.
But I also love that scene. I find it to be really creepy, and it kind of just leans into that darker, edgier Toy Story vibe that I really like about this movie. On an overall level, my biggest positives about this film are the performances, because I enjoy the characters and I enjoy everybody within it. It knows what kind of movie it is. It's silly, it's goofy, while also being serious and dark at times. It's a film that is just a lot of fun to watch. I really enjoy the character design on all of the different Gorgonites specifically. I really enjoy how they all look, the animatronics, and the CG in this film. When it's CG, it's noticeable. You know it's CG, but I feel like it's a perfect blend of what kind of film it is. If you've been watching this channel for a while, you know I am a fan of CGI if it's used in a way that fits the tone of the film. I'm not necessarily somebody who's turned off by cartoony CG as long as that cartoony CG fits the world that it's within. If it comes out and it just looks like terrible, then it looks bad. But in this case, it's a film that I feel when it does cut from animatronics to CG, it is noticeable, but again, it fits the tone and the visual style of the film, so it never takes me out of it. Now, before we get into my negatives on this film, let's go ahead and hear what TravTries have to say about this.
What's up, guys? This is Trav, and I am back again on Anthony's channel. Again, he invited me to do this, and on Small Soldiers, a movie that I definitely grew up with, and I'm excited to review it. I haven't seen Small Soldiers since I remember watching it with Ryan whenever I first showed him the movie, like when we were teenagers. You know, we watched a lot more movies a lot more often, and my bar for this movie was like, is it going to be as good as I remember, or is it literally just falling on nostalgia? And I actually gotta say, I had a great time rewatching this movie in my 20s now, just because like it falls right on that line of like nostalgia. This is the same director as The Burbs, and me and Ryan are huge fans of the movie The Burbs. It's a really underrated movie that really no one knows about, no one talks about, and it has some similar elements where, you know, it has kind of that horror element like Small Soldiers does, but Small Soldiers rides this line of really kind of this funny humor, but stays kind of in this darker kind of tone, but it's weird how well that mixes together. This director, and not a lot of directors would be able to do that. This director really knows how to mix this kind of like a more horror vibe mixing with the humor, but it falls, I think, more on humor and kind of action kind of movie than it does horror, but it has like all those three elements mixing together surprisingly well. And watching it now, I'm like, wow, this actually is still a really good movie. Kind of just like a darker Toy Story in a way, about these toys that, you know, like are made by a company with these special chips in them that basically, you know, bring them to life. And you would think, you know, the boss of the company that's like kind of going with these is like, okay, let's make the monsters the bad guys and the soldiers the good guys. When in reality, it's actually like Chip Hazard voiced by Tommy Lee Jones, is like fantastic. And he's kind of the main soldier villain guy. And, you know, it really did its own thing. It went its own sort of direction that you really wouldn't have expected. And I really respect it for that. I respect it for so many reasons. One big reason, one thing I was pointing out, because I watched it with Ryan this time again, because I was like, hey, I got a little bit of homework. I'm gonna be in Anthony's channel again. You want to watch this movie with me? It was a big yes from him to join me and watch it. And you know, it was so thrilling, because I was telling him throughout, I was like, dude, this CGI looks fantastic. To put it into perspective, like Jar Jar Binks in 1999 didn't look as good as this movie, and 98, I think. Either way, this movie came out before The Phantom Menace, like barely by a hair, and I was so surprised that, you know, they have these little animatronic, like these toys that actually move and are actually there on the set, but in some shots it's CGI, and it actually works really fluidly. Now, can you tell that it's CGI? Yes, but I'm just trying to say, like, it still holds up so freakishly well that I was blown away by it this time. I don't think I've ever realized, like, wow, like, this movie has some great special effects that still very well, like, they're good, okay? I was telling Ryan I had an Archer Gorgonite toy, and I wish I still had him, because he was amazing. Like, he looked just like he does in the movie, about the same height. I know it was probably not completely accurate to the film, but it was just cool back then as a kid to have a toy that's from a movie about toys. I was just really, really in love with it, and I never really owned anybody else. Okay, well, I owned Archer and Insaniac, and those two characters were like some of my favorites. I never owned any of the soldiers, but I kind of wish as a kid I would have collected more of them. I don't even know the company off the top of my head that made them in real life. One thing about this movie that I really respect is the fact that this director knows how to do family dynamics, because there's these two families in the movie that are kind of like, they don't really like each other, the parents don't and everything, but this director really knows how to make every character very interesting. Not once did I ever, in my adulthood this time watching it, did I say, oh, this character's kind of bleh, this character's kind of like too 90s cheese. No, every character still holds up today in this beautiful way, and the fact that the families have to come together at the end to fight the toys and everything, and because it's actually getting kind of scary, the toys are getting smarter and building stuff and like shooting nails and all this stuff. The dynamic and those threads that they leave. A very similar thing happens in The Burbs, where there's like these different people, this neighborhood of characters that literally are in a neighborhood all together, and all have to come together for a certain thing at the end. All of them are great, all of them that play their part really well. It's a very well-balanced movie with a very extremely well written for a movie about toys that come to life. Like, the guy that did this is amazing. And no sequel. This movie doesn't have a sequel, and you would think that it would have a sequel today, but it doesn't, and it makes me almost sad that it doesn't. I feel like it could really expand and really do its own thing. It could really be its own sort of universe, like, you know, the idea of Gorgon and this, like, island or whatever that the Gorgonites really are looking forward to going to and stuff. Like, you could expand so much, even though they're just toys, but there is, like, kind of a cool backstory that the people that made the toys, the two nerdy guys, like, are kind of, you know, they made this sort of world in their head. Before I go, I just want to mention something really quick that I found very intriguing and interesting. All my life as a kid, growing up, watching this movie, I never paid attention to, like, other movies having post-credit scenes. Like, when you're a kid, the credits roll, and then you just turn it off. It wasn't until I was a young teenager and then into adulthood that I started to appreciate the idea of credits and actually paying attention to who's in the movie and, like, who did this and that, and really just staying through the credits, you know. And then the MCU happened, and we started really paying attention more to, like, oh, is there, you know, even for other universes, like, hey, is there a post-credit scene after this? Is there an extra, like, thing or in the middle or stuff? I've been, like, paying attention to since the MCU, I've been paying attention to, like, every movie that's not MCU. Hey, does this have a post-credit scene this whole time and I didn't know or something? And Small Soldiers actually does. I don't even know if Anthony knows that, but basically it's just like a little blooper scene from Phil Hartman, and I literally had no idea. Phil Hartman plays like a really great character in this movie, and little did I know that he passed away. I'm pretty sure that I read that it was the same year as Small Soldiers. I'm pretty sure he passed away in 1998, and it was through homicide. He was killed, and I'm literally like, my mind was blown by that, because it shows a little blooper of him laughing about something, like a mistake he made, like dialogue. He said something, and he's like, was that good, or something on the mic, and then everyone on set started laughing with him, and then it says, for Phil, right at the end in the Small Soldiers font, or the credits font that they used. And I was really like, for Phil? I didn't even know that he was dead. And then I went and checked, and yeah, homicide. Just an interesting fact, guys. There actually is a little thing right at the end of Small Soldiers, and I've been watching that movie like all my life through my childhood. But not to leave it on a negative note, guys, I'm gonna leave it up to Anthony to finish off this review, and thank you guys so much. You can check me out on Twitter, Instagram, and I'm sure Anthony's gonna link my channel down below. Check it out. It's TravTries. I do food reviews and stuff, hence the Cheetos shirt that I recently got. And thank you guys so much for just welcoming me to Anthony's channel, and thank you to Anthony for allowing me to do this. Small Soldiers is a great movie. Go check it out on Netflix. If you've never watched Small Soldiers, give yourself a treat. Go watch Small Soldiers. Bye.
Big thanks to Trav from TravTries for being in this video with me. Again, his link and the link for Interpreting the Stars are down below in the description box. Go and give them some love. Two really great guys, two really great channels, and I appreciate the both of you guys being in this video with me. As far as my negatives for this film go, I'll be honest, I don't have too many. And I think that the real reason for that is, again, this is a film that for me knows what it is. It's a film that, when it comes narratively, it's not mind-blowing. It's not something that's gonna be all these twists and turns and things that you would never expect. It's, you know, there are some elements as it goes on that are predictable. So I would say the narrative is probably the weakest part of the film. But on an overall level, I think it's a good time still. I think it's a film that knows what it is, and it's about the character moments. It's about the outcome of the film, and that's something I really enjoy. As far as the negatives I go, there are moments, like I mentioned, where some of the CG doesn't look perfect. There are moments where some of the performances are a little cheesy. Some of the lines of dialogue could have probably been worked a little bit. But on an overall level, I find it to be really enjoyable, and I find that I struggle to find negatives of this film because it's just a feel-good watch for me. This is a film that, especially in the third act, I am just so invested in. There are moments in the third act, and especially the climax of the film in the last 5 minutes, specifically even the last 30 seconds of the film, where I am emotionally invested in what's happening. I love the relationship between Alan and the Gorgonites. I really love the arc that these characters have to go through. I enjoy Archer so much in this film. I really love his relationship with Alan. Archer and Alan have such a great relationship from beginning to end. There's a lot of tension and silliness about it at the very beginning, but near the end, there is this relationship between man and toy, and I really enjoy that. I thought it was really cool, and there are moments in the end that make you feel good. There's a great action sequence at the end where these two families have to essentially work with the Gorgonites to fight off the Commando Elite, and it's so fun, it's so rewarding, and I feel like if you're watching the film, you do feel like there's a great conclusion to this story. It's a fun, silly conclusion, and I had a lot of fun with it. So yeah, guys, that's gonna be my thoughts on Small Soldiers. This is just a film that I have a great time with. Have you seen this movie? Do you like this movie? Do you not like this movie? Definitely leave all of those comments down below. Definitely curious to hear what you guys have to say. Again, big thanks to TravTries and Interpreting the Stars for being in this video with me. Definitely go to the links down below in the description box and give them some love. They're definitely great channels. Let them know I sent you. And again, I appreciate every single one of you guys for watching. Leave your thoughts down below, and I'll see each and every single one of you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.